See for sure. Okay.
Never say never. It's just a big spot.
Can you show us? No, never say
Where are you going? We'll never say die. Never say never.
All right. The Monday, October 29th, 2013 South Bend Common Council is now in session. The invocation tonight by Reverend Tony Swingle.
Let's pray. Lord God, we thank you for the very privilege of the freedoms you give us here in this country, the freedoms that the very people who are here tonight, you have given us the right to elect those that we want to govern over us. You give us the freedom of speech, the freedom of religion. Lord God, you've given us people who serve and protect us, the police department, fire department, the EMTs. Lord God, I pray that you would protect them as they serve, as they protect us. And Lord God, I pray for the city council tonight. I see there's a good large crowd. I'm sure that there's going to be various opinions expressed. So Lord, I just pray that it be done in order and be done with gracious speech. And I just pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Read that all.
Mr. Henry is here.
Here.
Dr. Phillips. Dr. Mark.
Present.
Vice President Davis.
Present.
Present.
Mr. Phillips. President Peters.
Present. Mr. Wardy. Thank you. May I have the report from the subcommittee on minutes?
To the Common Council of the City of South Bend, the subcommittee has accepted the minutes of the October 14, 2013 meeting of the Council and found them to be correct. Therefore, we recommend the same be approved. Signed, Derek Peters, David Martin. Make a motion to accept the minutes as presented. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of that? Aye. Opposition. Thank you. Under special business tonight, we'd like to welcome Mr. Erna and Boy Scout Troop 111 from St. Matthew's Cathedral. If you could stand up. Mr. Ward, it's Saturday. We'll stay for the entire meeting, so thank you very much.
We also have another troop person here.
Okay.
Jackson. He's here. And
also under special business, Catherine Roos, the Chief of Staff, will be representing the City Administration along with the Mayor is here tonight also. Thank you. We do not have any reports of City offices due to all the things that we were talking about. Therefore, may I have a motion to resolve in the Committee of the Whole? Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition?
The Committee of the Whole is now in session. This is the portion of the Council's meeting where bills are given a second reading and a public hearing. I wish to share with you that some of the bills that will be given a second reading and public hearing have been given a first reading and a committee meeting and public hearing prior to this evening's meeting. In addition, you will hear from the chairperson of the committee where the bill was discussed and the results of their discussion.
I think we're going to wait till...
Additional rules governing the Committee of the Whole are set forth on the table as you enter the chamber. I do ask that the council members allow the petitioner to give his or her report prior to asking questions of them. Also, it is at this time that only questions pertaining to the bill and questions to the petitioner are allowed. In addition, I ask that you allow me, the chair of the Committee of the Whole, to first recognize you prior to addressing your questions. This way, everyone will have opportunity to speak and will be able to move through the agenda that is set before us. Prior to looking at our bills under the Committee of the Whole, we would need to entertain a motion to hear Bill 58-13 prior to hearing bills 44, 45, 46, and thereafter.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the motion, I hear your vote. Aye. Those opposed, the motion carries. At this time, I'm going to ask our council attorney to speak to the process that is before us in terms of bills 44-13, 45-13, and 46-13.
Councilmember Whiteman just identified the three bills that have been pending before the City Council for the past several weeks. There was a legal advertisement that the public hearing where members were publicly speak either in favor or in opposition to each of these three bills, and that meeting was held on September 23rd. At that meeting, the Common Council then closed the public portion, and each of those three bills that are all budget related are now in the council portion only. So as a result of that and the proper legal advertisement, only the council will be debating and making motions on those three bills this evening.
Thank you. Council members, do you have any questions? At this time, we will ask Mr. Vorty to please give Bill 58-13 a second reading.
Public hearing on a bill to vacate the following prescribed property. 1, the first north-south alley east of Georgiana Street, west of Burn Street, running north from the first east-west alley, south of Napoleon Street for a distance of approximately 54.5 feet to its termination point.
Thank you. Is there a committee report?
Yes, Madam Chair.
A second.
I'm not finished.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
No problem.
The second alley, the first north-south alley east of Fern Street, west of Dewey Avenue, running north from the first east-west alley south of Napoleon Street for a distance of approximately 56 feet to its termination point.
Thank you, Mr. Vorty. At this time, is there a committee report?
Yes, Madam Chair. The Public Works and Property Vacation Committee met this afternoon, and we bring Bill number 5813 to the full council with a favorable report.
Thank you. Is the petitioner present?
Yes.
We do ask that you state your name and address and give us a brief summary of Bill 58-13.
Mike Anderson, Baylor Honor Associated, 1643 Commerce Drive here in South Bend, representing the University of Notre Dame. And as I explained to council this afternoon, what we're asking for is just the vacation of two alley stubs that are located between Georgiana over to Dewey Avenue, just south of Napoleon Street. The reason for the vacation is to allow for future development along the south side of Napoleon. What we're planning on are 16 townhomes, probably in excess of about $9 million for the development. And we're just asking council to vacate those two alley stubs. If you have any questions for me,
Council members, do you have any questions of the petitioner? Seeing none, we thank you for your presentation. We'll now move to the public hearing portion. Is there anyone present wishing to speak in support of Bill 58-13? Anyone present wishing to speak in support of this bill? Seeing no one, is there anyone present wishing to speak in opposition? Again, I see no one. The public hearing portion is now closed. Council members, what is your pleasure?
Move for a favorable recommendation. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the recommendation, may I hear your vote. Aye. Those opposed, the motion carries. Bill 58-13 will be sent to the full council with a favorable recommendation. We'll now move to bills 44-13, 45-13, and 46-13. Prior to hearing these two bills in the council portion, I think we need to have a committee report.
At this stage, I would recommend that there is a substitute version of Bill 44-13 that has been filed by the city administration. The committee disposition of that should be made a record and then appropriate motion.
Madam Chair, the Personnel Finance Committee had a public hearing on Bill 4413. Substitute was recommended and approved, and so is now. So we have to accept the substitute version, and it has a favorable recommendation.
Okay. Would like to turn a motion to hear the substitute version of Bill 44-13.
Second.
Those opposed, the motion carries. Would like to entertain a committee recommendation regarding substitute Bill 44-13.
That recommendation was favorable, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. At this time, I would ask the mayor to come before the council if he wished to give a brief summary of the bills 44-13 as well as 45-13, or Mr. Murphy.
Good evening, council members. Thank you for the opportunity to present this evening the latest iteration of the budget for which we have all been working since earlier this year. The goal is to create a budget that allows us to fund the vital priorities that the city is responsible for. At the same time, continuing to change the way that we do business in the city, which requires that we budget for that as well. And we make sure that we are making the investments that are required in order to create a city where people want to live and a kind of city where businesses will want to invest. Let me ask a quick point of order question to be sure I'm being correct procedurally. Is this the right time to present as well the accompanying bill on salaries, or would that wait?
No, that's a separate action when we get to Bill 53-13.
Thank you. Wanted to make sure we're following the proper procedure there.
This is just to allow you an opportunity if you would like to give any summary comments regarding bills 44-13, 45-13, and 46-13.
In brief, the effort here to Yes, good idea. All right, I'll do the easy one first. We'll begin with the bill levying taxes and fixing the date of taxation. I'm going to defer to our Deputy Controller, John Murphy.
Thank you so much.
I'll go ahead and take this one. Substitute Bill 4413, ordinance levying taxes and fixing the rate of property taxation for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2014. This was discussed in committee. It's a requirement, it's somewhat of a placeholder amount. We have to calculate an amount for property tax rates for the general fund, Parks and Recreation Fund, Cumulative Capital Development, Redevelopment, Hall of Fame Fund. We set an amount, we set a rate. Then the Indiana Department of Local Government, in February of 2014, reviews all of our information, our budget, our assessed values, our other income, and they actually set the property tax rate for us. So our rate will be adjusted. It's typically, we set a little bit higher for advertisement, and it's typically adjusted downward. So that's the process that will happen in February 2014. Any questions on this bill?
Council members, do you have any questions on this bill?
No.
Okay.
Councilmember,
Yes.
I would recommend that if the council so desires, that it may be appropriate to have a motion now to dispose of substitute bill 4413, since the genesis of passage has been focused on the other two budgets.
So moved.
Second.
Recommend favorably.
Yes, indeed.
4413.
It's been motion and it's been seconded that substitute bill 44-13 will be sent to the full council with a favorable recommendation. All those in favor of the motion, I hear you vote. Aye. Those opposed, the motion carries. We'll now receive a committee report regarding bill 45-13.
Madam Chair, 4513 public hearing was held this afternoon, and it comes to the council at this point in time with no recommendation.
Okay. Mayor, would you like to make any comments regarding bill 45-13?
Yes, should we entertain both together, or would it be all right if we present the budget collector when noting that some of this money goes towards it?
Then I would note that Bill 4613 also comes with no recommendation subject to the hearing we had this afternoon, so they can be heard.
So is that a motion to hear both these bills together? Is it second? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the motion? Aye. Those opposed, the motion carries. We will hear Bill 45-13 and Bill 46-13 together.
Thank you. Since the substance of the budget has been discussed in some detail since August when the budget was first presented, and to some extent even before that, I'll concentrate my remarks on the handful of changes that have been made in fairly recent order in order to try to ensure that we have assembled a budget package that is agreeable on balance to an overlapping consensus of council members, as well as being agreeable to the administration's priorities. As I mentioned earlier, our goal is to ensure that we are not only maintaining adequate levels of service that the city does continue to do and must always do, but that we are also continuing to develop the way that we do business in the city, and that we're making the investments that it's going to take to continue to create places where people want to live and locations where businesses are going to want to invest. We heard a number of areas of feedback from council members that were submitted to us through the Personnel and Finance Committee and have responded to a number of those with adjustments that we've made in the substance of the budget. I'll draw your attention to a handful of the most significant financially, and of course welcome further questions that either I or the controller can field if there's any desire for further detail on that. One thing that you'll notice that is a recent adjustment is making sure that we have adequate resources for public safety. This has included $100,000 committed to the downtown overtime patrols in order to keep up that program that has got a great response from the downtown community as well as those who make use of downtown. And another $100,000 for supplemental patrols in the neighborhoods so that we're sure that we are not neglecting the neighborhoods while ensuring that there is safety downtown. We have also made some adjustments to positions. One is that we're now sufficiently optimistic about securing before the end of the year a commitment with a public-private partnership with the Zoo Society that we feel that we're able to withdraw the adjustment to the salary of the zoo directors from the budget. We have heard the message of the council that more time will be needed before we act in any way to restructure the code enforcement of the building department. So the revised budget that you have before you takes into account those budget implications that run to those as two separate departments. And we've also made sure that we are being clear about the purpose of what I've been considering part of the Smart Streets program. Some would regard as a separate initiative, but in any case, making sure that we have adequate lighting, which is beneficial to safety in neighborhoods throughout the city. Again, I'll look to be corrected if I'm not coloring within the lines procedurally, but I'd like to take this opportunity, if we're at the right moment in the proceedings, to also suggest verbally an amendment that could be made in response to some concerns that were raised earlier today by members of the council concerning the use of loss recovery fund dollars. All right. So the suggestion I would like to make is that an amendment would be entertained that would adjust the numbers that in previous budget outlines we have laid out as being part of the Smart Streets initiative within the loss recovery fund. What this would do is this would reduce that outlay for Smart Streets by the amount of $350,000. And the purpose of that change would be to ensure that the city has adequate funding protected for the purpose of installing wells as may be needed in order to address the issues in the neighborhood surrounding the new energy site. I don't know if anybody's now in a position to vote on that or if...
well, we're going to have comments.
That would be fund number 227. The city controller said yes, that is the correct fund. And it's my understanding that all issues or suggested recommendations are going to be aired this evening.
Acted on.
Not voted on a case-by-case basis yet.
Until Wednesday. Okay.
Is there any other language that would be needed with that? Or that's all?
It is my understanding that there will be further information that the Corporation Council will be in contact with me before Wednesday, and we will work out the legalities of that.
We will check that language as soon as possible to make clear the intention with which we are protecting those dollars.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. At this time, I'm going to ask...
Just for the record, so that we're clear, the city controller's office did file a document, Mr. Murphy specifically, I believe, a one-page summary sheet and 55 pages of detail that outlines the various items that the mayor has just outlined. So that is all before the council and it's of record with the council.
I'm going to now turn to the council. Again, this is the point that the council will be able to address the mayor or the city controller with any questions or concerns that you might have regarding Bill 45-13. I'm going to start with Councilmember Tim Scott and go directly down to Councilmember Davis and thereafter. Councilmember Scott, any comments or concerns that you might have regarding Bill 45-13, knowing that we will take final action on Wednesday?
I have a couple.
Yes.
First of all, I want to thank you for looking at the lake commission. It may be new to some council members, but it's something that we've discussed through meetings in the past. It is a concern that has come up in neighborhoods where there are issues of crime and safety, and has been brought up by about 5 different neighborhood associations, myself and other council members here. A budget is a budget. A budget does not mean that the money is immediately going to be spent to that dime and that nickel. Plans are in the works for that $100,000 and $200,000. Almost got my budget. And there will be future actions coming down on that. So I appreciate that. And as far as salaries and that, my only concern is I don't look at individuals or who's in those positions.
Councilmember Scott, we're not talking about the salaries in this.
You're right.
Yeah, you have the opportunity for that. We're discussing Bill 45-13.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think that's about it.
Thank you. Councilmember Davis? Okay, Councilmember Shea?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. This has certainly been a very interactive process arriving here. So the question I have for you regarding Bill 4513 and the funds that are governed or that Bill 4513 would address is with regards to the Smart Streets proposal. We have the funding for that coming from Fund 227, the Loss Recovery Fund, and then the motor vehicle highway money.
And major moves.
Major moves. So the question I have is, in talking with residents and hearing both sides, both for and against the project, it seems that there has been a lot of discussion recently, more focused on just trying to address Phase 1 and Phase 1A and Phase 1B. Phase 1A, of course, based on the information that Scott Ford had presented to Council, would be the Williams and Lafayette project, which was presented to us for a total of $671,000. And then Jefferson Boulevard was presented as Phase 1B, and that was presented to us for a total of $1.54 million. So I wanted to ask, when we get to this point of actually voting on Bill 4513, if we were to only look at the funding appropriation that is currently, there's $2.3 million earmarked for Smart Streets out of Fund 227, the loss recovery. If we collectively agree that we would support just the first 2 phases, Phase 1A and Phase 1B, would we then be taking the line item out of the major moves? Will we see by Wednesday, if we're truly only going to support the first 2 phases, will we, when we meet on Wednesday, see the line item that's in the major moves budget removed? Does that make sense? I hope so. It has to do with making sure that the changes that we have all discussed, both council, administration, and the community, saying, you know, we would support Williams and Lafayette and possibly Jefferson, and then see how that goes before we throw in the whole 11.4 million. So my question to you is, are we going to take first phase approach and delete the earmarked funds out of the motor vehicle or major moves?
So that sounds to me like a question that only your fellow council members would be able to answer. From the administration perspective, we believe the full portfolio that we're submitting, which is already, of course, phased compared to some of the things that were discussed earlier, but a portfolio that includes addressing the William and Lafayette right away, as well as Jefferson, but also design work allowing us to prepare for the northern approach, and some of the other streets initiatives that, at least in my view, are part of the Smart Streets package, such as our corridor work and what we hope to do with curbs and sidewalks. And we regard that as one comprehensive package. From the philosophical standpoint, in terms of sources of funds, major moves, of course, is earmarked or is identified for use in transportation and infrastructure uses. There's more flexibility around some of the other sources of funds. And I would, just as an asterisk on the breakdown you offered, which I believe is correct, mentioned that if the amendment that was mentioned earlier was carried, then we'd actually be talking now about 1.9 rather than 2.3 in the loss recovery going into the Smart Streets if we were to take that 350 out and instead lay it aside with a view toward wells in the new energy area. I don't know if that fully answers your question, but I think part of the question might be either one about procedure, which I'll do my best to either defer to council expertise or our own controller on, depending which is more appropriate, or a question about what decisions your fellow council members might make in proposing any amendments to the budget. We certainly believe, of course, that that is the right thing to do.
So, based on the question, and I'm sorry if it was vague, but your intention as the mayor will be to come before council on Wednesday, not with necessarily an amended Smart Streets budget, just to support Phase 1 and Phase 1A and Phase 1B, but to in fact come before council with
Yes. We feel that the package that's now been laid out, including the amendments that were discussed earlier, is the right package for Smart Streets that get us on the right direction going forward downtown and the surrounding area.
Okay, that was my question. It's not going to be amended and reduced to just support the first two.
That's right. That's not in our plan.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Davis?
Hey, thank you. I was going to actually tell you I'm ready.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor, for presenting. Actually, I'm going to have a few questions, actually, because in reading emails and listening to, news and reading newspapers, and I've also said this out loud before in council meetings, I don't know if you're present or not, I am still confused on the project itself and the validity of it. Not saying it doesn't deserve any merit. I get it. I've seen it in other cities. I get it. I've seen it look well in other cities. I've traveled quite a bit to other cities and I see it. But one thing that, I'm going to question first is why the rush?
Well, I don't believe that the community right now wants us to move slowly when it comes to creating jobs and investment downtown. I've had very few people come up to me on the street and ask me to see to it that city government moves slower than it does now. I certainly respect that there's sometimes reason to take pause and make sure we're doing the right thing. I will even admit that there have been times when I've been in a hurry and the council has slowed us down, and that's been better for everybody. I would say that some of the things we've done to shape and adjust this budget absolutely reflect that very give and take. But I also do think that the city's looking for action, the community's looking for action, and the community would like to see something done sooner rather than later, because we have waited for so long to get downtown into the shape we'd like it to be in.
and we certainly see signs of momentum. 13 new businesses with $2 million of private investment, quite a few jobs in the downtown area just in the last month or so. But I don't think any of us believe that it's going to be quickly enough. And I would suggest that the answer to the question why the rush is that we don't have any time to lose when it comes to the economic impact that we could be unlocking for our city.
Okay, so now actually in perfect segue into my next question. You stated that the community wants to see downtown in better conditions and better light, way that we want to see it. I wasn't offered the opportunity to set these tables, the working groups or anything. Most of this is in Second District, like all of it almost is. And I've not had an opportunity to even share a conversation with you about these changes as a representative for those folks. And so why I'm wanting to go down and detail these questions is because I'm still confused. What is the way that we want to see it? I don't understand it. You said there's a way that we want to see it. What is that way?
I wish that you had attended some of the public meetings where that was detailed and where there were opportunities for a lot of people from the community to come to. We've learned quite a bit, I think, that there's a variety of opinions around our community. But also, in my view, a sense of urgency to the chair. I don't know if you've had a chance to view any of the meeting presentations online.
I went to the presentation at Citrus Center.
Okay.
Yeah, I paid attention to it, but the we thing is getting to me because I'm trying to figure out what is that we want to see. Could you enlighten me on what we want to see?
Well, in my view, the city of South Bend wants to see a more inviting downtown, a more livable, more walkable, and more dynamic downtown. I think that's a view that's shared. I think most people in the city of South Bend want us to have more business growth. I think most people downtown want to see that potential for residential in our downtown area accelerated and met with more options. And I think most people would love to be able to shop in downtown, hang out more downtown. I think a lot of voices have made themselves heard, some at the Century Center meetings, some in other public fora, such as right here in this room, some simply by sending me emails or by grabbing one of those at the grocery store. I think each of us has the best read that we can on what people want, what people don't want, and where we hope to lead. And I just think we have such a great opportunity in front of us. To kickstart downtown road is one of the most powerful things that we can do, something that seems to be powerful, as you mentioned, in some of the communities that you've observed and some of those that I've observed as well around America. And I hate for us to miss out.
Well, yeah, but we had an awesome opportunity to do that to Chase College. We had an awesome opportunity to do some of the things with College Football of Fame. So this is why I'm back here at this vision of understanding, because most of these things are done within the context of a comprehensive larger plan. When you begin the development process, there is obviously a process of developing a plan. And I have not seen or heard of us adopting a new plan based upon the traffic. What is Transco's interest into this? How are they going to reconfigure major routes, or how do they move about on these streets that seemingly are not as large as they once were? What does the traffic count becomes when these things do happen? The amount of enforcement for speeding, right, or parking. How are we, in a larger context of a comprehensive plan, are going to be able to evaluate these things once, if these things do take hold? And I have not seen those things. Now, there is an adopted plan that's been there for many years now. But as far as you being newly elected a couple of years ago and starting on this venture, this is the reason why I was going so fast. I cannot prove to folks that are living in neighborhoods that this is a part of a larger plan. So year 1, year 2, year 3, here we are, right? So why haven't we adopted more of a comprehensive plan that promotes all of the things that are logistically a part of a downtown development plan? And that includes the public transportation system. It also includes street parking. That also includes garage parking. Everything that deals with cars and traffic. So where's that plan at?
So I think you'll find that in both the meetings that have taken place and some of the materials that have been circulated since, considerable thought and analysis has been given to a range of transportation questions, such as the very important ones you bring up, parking. And it's certainly right that we need to remain in steady dialogue with the public transportation system here too. Of course, the city adopted a comprehensive plan a few years ago in terms of the city plan. And then we have more detailed plans in terms of the specific proposals for the different streets and the different phases being contemplated. I think any executive in city government faces the need to balance wanting the perfect plan with wanting to get something done. And I suppose if we were trying to have the perfect all-encompassing plan, we would wind up with something that we might never quite finish. And in my experience, there's certainly been different projects that have had a different ratio between planning and action. But I would argue that in recent years in our city, it's not the case that we've had too much action and not enough planning, relative to having a lot of plans sitting on the shelves and perhaps not enough action.
Well, I think if I have a meeting between both of them, I agree. You know, I think if I have a meeting between both of them, but I'm not asking for perfect. Believe me, I'm not. I think that would be requiring too much of any human being on planet Earth. But what I am asking for is not dialogue and analysis based upon my 34 years of experience on this earth. What I am asking for is that I have a vision, a picture that takes me from point A to point Z. When we're spending this type of dollars, when we include this many people, when we are changing the way that we do business, as you say, it needs to be plotted down in such a way that we can understand it. I just received like a lengthy email from a business owner, and it had these things been talked about and directed in sort of a plan. You know, those articles that we do, you know, kind of like you just bring them in the house. Right. Then we wouldn't have this conversation. It's difficult to say yes to this amount of money affecting all the folks that live in this community. It's not the business owners downtown. Everybody. Because if this money is spent here, it can't be spent on Johnson Street. So we have to look at it in such a way that we can almost prove by some measurements that this is what's going to happen in the end. And I have not gotten any of it. No one has. No one can say this that they have. It's almost like we're going to spend big and hope for that. Maybe we spend big and we lose for the worse. I don't know. I don't know that. So is there any pause in your level of aggressiveness with this to give the South End taxpayers, even the Common Council, more of an understanding on what's going on before we jump out there? Because again, if we jump out there and it doesn't work, what do? We reverse it back with another $11 million, $7 million? I mean, what do we do? I mean, what's the contingency plan? Henry needs to see point A to point Z. Henry needs to see the direct vision that deals with analytical and numbers. Maybe we can get there. The other thing that, and the last thing I want to get on, you can get back on to, but
let's point our questions to the mayor.
Well, I am.
Okay, thank you. So we can move forward.
Well, you know the comment.
Well, I'm in the chair, so
That's fine.
I'll deal with that. Okay, and Councilman Davis, you ask your other question, please.
Small business owners and grants. Is there anything associated with small business owners and grants for the Smart Street project, given the fact that it needs to work with small business owners?
So the infrastructure funding would not include a grant program for small businesses. But we do have, of course, other activities that go on, especially in downtown area through DPSB to support small business. And I believe that the broader policy of our community investment department reflects the fact that we know that most new jobs created in our city are created by small businesses.
Thank you. Councilman Furley?
Is part of your overall plan a corridor project also?
Yes, that's right. So within the smart streets package, there is funding set aside for addressing the corridors. The thought here is that the condition of those corridors concerns not only people who live and work and travel on it, but really the whole city. You don't have to spend one day on Lincoln Way West to be affected by the conditions on Lincoln Way West, because that's the first impression that thousands of people get of our city as they make their way between the airport and another part of the community. So with a view toward the need to do that, I think that we need to invest accordingly. And we've made sure that this funding package includes approximately, and I'll invite my colleagues to correct me if I trip over any of the numbers here, but approximately $2 million to go toward that purpose. Now, I do want to stress that it's going to have input from the community. So we don't have it all figured out. Because doing that right means doing it with the people who live and operate businesses in that area. And so that will continue to develop, but there's no reason we shouldn't lay aside the funding for that today.
But the people out there, the corridors mean what?
In this context, we believe that Western and Lincoln Way are the areas most needing investment.
That's all. Thank you. Councilmember Varner?
No questions at this time, thank you.
Councilmember Oliver Davis?
Yes, Madam Chair. My comments, first of all, I'm going to thank the mayor for what he just stated regarding putting aside $350,000 toward the wells for the homes near the new energy plant. At this present time, there are several neighbors who I see out there in the audience. Can you at least wave to live near the new energy plant? I see you in the back. See you right there. There you are right there. I see you in the far back. And so the reason I want to thank you during this time, because you all have gone through something. One of my neighbors back there, water came through from December all the way to January, and I want to thank you for putting that in. I want to thank the council people for dealing with that issue. Council, could you just share a little bit for those who may have come in late what you're planning to do regarding that again?
Sure, and let me begin just at the outset by thanking you for elevating the plight of those homeowners to the attention of the community as well as the administration. And also stress that as far as we're concerned, that the homeowners who have been affected by the rising water table in the area around New Energy have done nothing wrong. It's not their fault that they're dealing with this situation in their basement. Thankfully now, due to engineering intervention, we've been able to temporarily ensure that there is no water filling those basements, but I understand why any homeowner in that situation would expect certainty. So having heard just how urgent that concern is, we would like to suggest that the council or the committee vote on the amendment. The effect of that amendment would be to withdraw $350,000 from what is now allocated in the loss recovery fund for smart streets. We think that we can do that without compromising 2015's worth of activity in the streetscape, and would do that in order to make sure that that funding is available for doing something about a permanent solution to the new energy area problem.
Thank you, because that permanent solution is what the neighbors have come here to hear tonight. We have suffered, and I want to thank you again for that. Also regarding the corridors, especially we as a council passed a resolution for the Lincoln Way and for the Western Avenue corridors. And the build-up on Western Avenue has been overlooked for a long period of time. And could you elaborate a little bit more of what you would like to see done with those corridors in that for the council?
One of the challenges I think that we have is we have so many corridors that past efforts have sometimes struggled because not being able to prioritize and target what they're doing. So we understood the council would be sending a message when a resolution was passed highlighting the need for action on both the Lincoln Way and Western corridors. I think on the Lincoln Way, and again, I don't want to presume to speak too far ahead because I know that this getting this right requires input in the community. But as far as our vision is concerned, I think that we need to ensure that the Lincoln Way West corridor has not only the kind of benefits we hope it will be getting anyway from our vacant and abandoned housing efforts, but also something to be done about the streetscapes and or business facades that form the way that it feels to live, work, in or near those corridors. With Western, I think there's a similar pattern, but also considerable momentum already because of some of the new small businesses that have been established along what some call far Western, so past Walmart. And I think there will be an opportunity to reinforce that and/or remediate some of the most troubled areas that remain along the stretch from downtown out to what sometimes called the far west.
Thank you. The last part, besides the wells that you've worked with, and I'm thankful for that, and the Western Avenue, a part of our bus tour, we talked about curbs and sidewalks. In terms of, especially when you look at on the west side, a lot of this whole Kankakee issue that we've been dealing with the wells has dealt with the whole issue of muck out there, which has, you see that with the curbs and the sidewalks out there. Could you share with our people in the audience and the council what your plans are again to reiterate the issue regarding the curbs and sidewalks?
Our goal is for everybody to have an adequate sidewalk in front of their home. Not every resident in the city has that right now, and that's true in many parts of town. One of the ones I remember you bringing to my attention is an area where it really feels like a seesaw because of what's going on with the urban underground.
Six Flags.
We have expanded the availability of funds for that over $1 million, having listened to some of the concerns raised by council about the prior level of funding not being enough. I want to offer truth in advertising. I don't know that this will take care of the problem. We have much more work to do, but we certainly recognize why we were asked to commit more to do something about that. And we hope to be able to expand the program and pick up our pace when it comes to dealing with what we acknowledge is already a backlog and dealing with those troubled curbs and sidewalks around the city and our neighborhoods.
Well, again, I want to thank you for digging deep when it came to our wells issue, our Western Avenue issues, and then when it comes to our curbs and sidewalks, because that's what our neighbors and people have been asking for, and I want to thank you for listening.
Councilman Furley?
Sure, just say thank you to the administration for its responsiveness regarding council feedback and the budget, and I think it's represented very well in the list of amendments presented today, so thank you for your responsiveness.
Councilman Medina?
Thank you. Can you clarify about the streets? Are we still looking at doing just William and Jefferson, or are you looking for us to make a motion to take the others out?
Well, certainly not asking you to sign that.
Well, I spoke with people under your administration, and I thought we were...
Yeah, it's certainly adjusted from I think, what was talked about in the first instance. I don't know, Scott, if you'd like to give us a chance to kind of reiterate, especially discussion of the folks in the public who are here, how the different phases that you think need to be appropriated for now. Sure, right now. Right.
And I don't know if it's that point, we'll probably do that Wednesday.
Wednesday, because what we're doing now is making sure that
This question, okay.
each council person has opportunity to address the questions to the mayor and to anyone in his department that can address
So
the
motion,
questions.
if we were to amend that, a motion would be entertained on, all right? Motion will be on the Wednesday for that.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
One quick, and I don't know if Mr. Ford would have to answer that, because you talked about changing and doing things and everything on South Bend. I haven't seen anything, and I've read a lot, that specifically says if we would do William or Lafayette, that we would create jobs there.
Well, when you do, I think, any kind of investment for economic development, especially at the infrastructure variety, you don't necessarily have somebody able to guarantee a number of jobs per dollar. Although we do know, just from some of the recent coverage of downtown development, there's a lot of business investors saying that how they make a go, no-go decision. And we'll probably make a couple more go, no-go decisions about investing dollars in creating jobs downtown, is whether they perceive this two-way project to be on track. So I certainly believe it's related to job creation. But we also recognize that based on what we've learned from doing William and Lafayette, we may need to revisit and reconsider elements of the strategy.
Because when I look at each of those as they are William Street, basically the only available property is the manor which lies on the east side of the street. And when I look at that, you know, again, comparing this to Wichita or whoever, great, but I'm looking at William from Washington to Western. If we did this two-way, what would go there? That's what I look
Yeah,
at.
I agree with the bulk of the operation that we hope to get to reimagining downtown probably comes from the more trafficked corridors. Well, better way to get a sense of that proof of concept than to do what I would describe as a no-brainer street like William. And also down the end, which does, especially from George Stanley down to Fort Winds at Kovalevsky Stadium, has some businesses that classes that we all love to see have one vibrant retail.
And then the last question I guess that would be for Scott, that I thought the overall impression of doing the two-way would to be slow traffic down. Is that what we're initially looking at?
One consequence is the traffic may not move as quickly as we think, but
Well, the only thing that I have is if we're doing William the way it's lined up here, you will go from Colfax all the way to Western without stopping, and that to me creates a lot of speed on cars. So
yes, William is an interesting, perhaps an exception, because what we can do is we can substitute those driver's lights where you got people waiting for the red light.
I agree.
Put in stop signs.
we agree on something. And then one last thing would be Lafayette. And I know Scott brought up some studies from, one was from Canada, another's 10 years old, and they look at the safety aspect. I don't think they have a clue, though, of what would happen on Lafayette with two-way, and if we get to Lafayette, whether it's this year or next year, where everybody comes across from the city parking lot, I don't think any Traffic Institute study looks into everybody jaywalking as everybody does from the city parking lot coming into the county city building. So now you'll have to go across two ways of traffic, plus you will have northbound traffic stopping to turn left into the city lot, which will also, if we get to that point, maybe a crosswalk with some flashing lights on that stuff. So that's all I got for now.
Okay. As we bring this part of the council meeting to closure as pertains to Bill 45-13, we'd like to say, Mayor, in regards to the smart streets, it was indicated that we had $2.5 million for corridors. Is that $2 million now?
So from that 2.5, I would set aside 200, that would account for the lighting.
Okay.
And then another, that 350 would account for what we
energy.
reserved for new energy.
And also, we've heard in regards to questions, why the rush, looking at the smart streets. I'm just going to try to summarize as we prepare for Wednesday's meeting. Again, the administration has acknowledged that they've been able to listen to the council's concerns, which has given them opportunity to adjust and reshape the budget as it pertains to this bill that is before us. 13 new businesses, communities wanting action. There was a question about the phasing in terms of Phase 1A, Phase 3, that the administration will be submitting an amendment to address the wells for new energy. Question in regards to conversations with Transpo, traffic count, enforcement, speeding, a need for a comprehensive plan that will detail the dollar amount that is before us. These are some of the questions or comments I've heard council members, and we can also refer back to the transcript of this meeting. At this time, we have other that we have to move towards, and you will have opportunity on Wednesday. I would ask that you submit your questions to the chairperson, the Personnel and Finance Committee, hopefully by noon tomorrow, and those questions can be directed to the administration. You will have ample time for discussion.
I'd like to make a motion to continue 45-13 to 10-30-11.
Second.
To move, that's not the right motion.
That's not correct.
Mhm.
You can do,
10-30-13.
to continue bill number 45-13 in the council
Portion
Portion
only.
only.
and have third reading at the special town council meeting on October 30th.
Some of
Of 2013. Yeah.
To move and second, and all those in favor of the motion? Those opposed? Motion carries. Again, I would ask council members to, if you have any additional questions, that you would address those to the chairperson, the Personnel and Finance Committee, and submit those directly to the administration as well.
I would also suggest that bill 45-13 is the general fund and 49 other funds. There are several recommendations that the council had sent forth to the administration, so if any of those are going to be addressed in Dr. Varner's committee meeting, that you
You have those as well. And that list that the council members prepared, hopefully each council member has a copy of those additional areas of concerns. If not, we can receive a copy from the clerk's office. Okay.
Anyone who, I would ask that anyone who wants to submit to the Personnel and Finance Committee something for consideration, something which you intend to, subsequent consideration, perhaps ask for action on, that we have those by first thing tomorrow or noon at the very latest. I think that in order to get a reasonable response to that, I would like to know everybody knows what's on the table. So to that extent, if we can receive all of those in advance, I would be happy to see that they are made available to all the interested parties.
Would you prefer this, Madam Chair, for us to, when we send that by email, to do a CC to the council?
Yes.
Great idea.
That way, just send it to Dr. Varner, but just send it to Dr. Varner plus with the CC to the council and to our attorney, so that we can all have a good understanding of what's coming through.
And I'll make sure that the administration receives it, so.
I would appreciate that.
Point of order in the clerk's office, so it's a matter of public.
And the clerk's office.
That's correct.
This was Kelly?
Okay.
Close, nothing secret.
So that we have clarity in regards to what's being asked from council and the time frame that you have. Dr. Varner would like to receive a motion regarding Bill 46-13.
Again, the proper motion would be to continue with Bill number 46-13 in the council budget only and presented for third reading. From council meeting on October 30th.
So moved. Second that.
So moved and seconded. All those in favor of the motion? Aye. Those opposed, the motion carries.
Now that deals with all of the 23 enterprise funds.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to continue 5313 to 10/30/13.
5313, we would need to have a public hearing on that.
Second, third reading?
Yes.
Because we didn't have a hearing on it tonight.
We can have a committee hearing. So we will receive committee citizens' feedback on Bill 53-13. We did not have committee.
We did not have a hearing on it.
We had a hearing, we did not have a public hearing at the time, so we're open for public hearing.
I would ask that we take action. 46-13 will be continued in the council portion this coming Wednesday.
That's correct.
Okay. At this point, we'd like to ask Mr. Vorty to please give second reading to Bill 53-13.
Public hearing on a bill fixing maximum salaries and wages of elected officers and non-marketing employees of the city of South Bend, Indiana for calendar year 2014.
Is there a committee report? I believe it's a substitute bill that's before us.
We need to accept it by amendment.
Just the 5313?
Yes. Is there a motion to accept the substitute?
So moved. Second.
So moved and seconded. All those in favor of the motion? Aye. Those opposed, the motion carries. Now, I would like to entertain a motion on the committee report from Personnel and Finance.
Personnel and Finance Committee had a public hearing on Bill 5313 this afternoon. It comes to the council with no recommendation.
Okay. At this time, we'll ask the presenter to come before the council, and we will be receiving information regarding the substitute version of Bill 53-13.
Good evening. Nice to see you again. PowerPoint to get ready here. Every employee in the city of South Bend, from the most junior to the most senior, is expected to do more and more in an environment where they're drawing less and less away of resources to work with. I have yet to meet any public servant here in the city who is in it for the money. But I do know that we also need to make sure that every public servant at every level in our government is adequately compensated. We're paying a fair salary and wages, and that we're keeping pace with what our peers are doing in other units of local government. This year's salary ordinance, which establishes the maximum salary allowable by law in any given position, is going to reflect a number of changes we believe are needed in order to have a more internally equitable and externally competitive range of salaries and wages for our employees. So the range is from a 0% increase to a 34% increase, depending on what is most needed in any given job. The norm, however, and what most non-bargaining civil city employees would receive under this ordinance is a raise of 2%. Now, as I said, some salaries, specifically those which have the highest compensation set by an adjustment, which we requested and the council passed last year, will not receive a raise this year, including my own office, partly because of the financial pressure that the city overall is under. But at the same time, we need to make sure that those positions that have fallen far behind what is the norm in that particular position or similar positions with similar responsibility are paid adequately. That's why we will see, based on two things, city benchmarking, by which I mean comparing ourselves to other cities in the area, and internal pay equity, by which I mean making sure that different people with similar responsibilities in the same administration can expect to make comparable payment. We will continue to look at every position at every level, and now that we have an added level of capacity in our HR department, can continue undertaking analysis of wages and salaries to try to keep pace. And so while in the spirit of truth in advertising, I can't promise that tonight's salary ordinance will leave us with a perfectly equitable outcome that's in line with where we think an ideal city would be. We do think it'll leave us a lot better than we were last year, and we feel some urgency about correcting this. Lastly, I just want to note that we took action largely because members of the council last year, when we were making the case for a handful of salary changes, asked me, I think, the very legitimate question, well, what about all the others? Why are you only waiting until a position is vacant before you do something about the salary for that position? So we heard that message, and part of our response is what we're doing here. As you'll see again, across the direct reports to the mayor, so the senior members of the city of South Bend government, a number of people get no raise at all, but there are raises for a number of employees that we have found continue to lag behind their counterparts in other Indiana cities. The idea here also is to try to have a more equitable range of pay among those who are directly reporting to the mayor. Under the current salary structure, there is a nearly $50,000 or over $40,000 variation between the best paid and the least paid direct report to the mayor. This would narrow that to a plus or minus $10,000 difference. There are also, this is not only directed at the director level, the direct reports to the mayor, but also aims to adjust salaries that are in some cases one level in. So at the sub-department head level. And there are a number of leadership positions, especially in the public works field that we feel needs work. One thing this salary ordinance does is creates salary for a deputy director of public works, a position we felt has been needed for some time to bring us into the norm of having a number two or an executive officer for a department that has more than 100 employees and a very large budget. As well as making sure that positions, including the waterworks, which is currently vacant and has been vacant for too long, are paying competitive. I won't take you through all of the comparisons that went into all of this, although it's been submitted to the council in raw data form. I do want to take this opportunity to illustrate what we're trying to do. And just to take one example, I'm going to get out of the Office of Chief of Staff to the Mayor. Next year, the year we're budgeting for, is of course the third year that the Chief of Staff position would be in existence. And while the Mayor's office has shrunk considerably in personnel from where it was, and in dollars, from where it was even a few years ago, the responsibilities of a position like this have only increased. As you can see by the bar on the left, we are currently at the back of the pack among comparable cities that we found in Indiana with a comparable position. So if you look over here, that's Fort Wayne, which is the best paying, I believe around $122,000. Over here on the far left side, you have our local pay. What we're proposing is that we move from the back of the pack to the middle of the pack. So this is where the 2014 ordinance would put us, basically in the middle, slightly below, I would admit, slightly below the Indiana average of these cities we evaluated, but certainly more competitive and more in line with what you would see around the state. One question that was raised was whether the comparison might be misleading if we didn't take account of cost of living. We did a little bit of research as such as we could since being here earlier today to get a better sense. What we found is that the cost of living score in Fort Wayne is 91.3, where in South Bend it's 90.1. So that could account for 1 or 2% of the difference. But certainly not for the 80% difference that you would see here, in the sense that you would have to raise today's South Bend Chief of Staff level by about 80% in order for it to be the same as the counterparts paid in Fort Wayne. Evansville actually has a higher cost of living, so you could again argue that in this case about 3 or 4% could be accounted for that. But that's about it. Indianapolis, 92.6 relative to our score to 90.1. Here again, I just want to give you a sense of comparison. Right now, we're close to the bottom of the pack in terms of the maximum salary allowed for a Parks Director. It is higher than Evansville, but considerably lower than the Indiana average. We're trying to move it to the middle of the pack there, both out of fairness and with a view to making sure that we retain and attract good folks to the job. Waterworks, I just want to linger on for a moment because hopefully don't need to impress upon you how important the job of the person who's responsible for making sure that 100,000 people have clean, safe drinking water every day is. It is a source of concern that this position has been advertised for some time and has not attracted candidates of the level of qualification that would be expected. We believe compensation has something to do with that, and we believe moving into the middle of the pack would be an appropriate response that would make us more competitive.
Thank you. At this time, council members, you have opportunity to ask questions.
Forgive me, I just wanted to take this opportunity to ask that if there are any further concerns or questions, much like what we talked about earlier, we want that raised as soon as possible, so we can be ready at that upfront.
And we agree as well. Council members, at this time, if you have any questions pertaining to the salary ordinance, this is the time that you can address those questions. You will have opportunity after the public hearing to make any comments, general comments that you might have of the salary ordinance. At this time, you're addressing questions in regards to the information that we have received. I'm going to start this way. Our Councilmember Derek Dieter.
Thank you. Chairperson Karen White. Under the Public Works Leadership Team slide, Cecil? They all fall under the Director of Public Works, and you have 5 director jobs. What can you tell me the difference between why they all wouldn't be the same salary?
So the way that the salaries were reached in terms of building this proposal was a mix, again, really of 2 things. Part of it was internal equity, so that's the reason why they stay within a pretty narrow band. But the other part is external competitiveness, and we're trying to fit in with the benchmarking statewide, and I think what we found was that Waterworks and Environmental Services roles, or somebody doing that kind of work, was generally being compensated at a higher level than the other 3 areas.
Okay. Well, again, that's what I talked about earlier with the talent manager, if we can get some statistical data to bear that out.
Sure, and if you consult the spreadsheet we sent around, it has some of the comparables that we were...
I haven't got that one yet, so... Talking about the talent manager position you have, to show some data on that.
Yes, and I think you helped us get that data.
So you can get it. I haven't got it, so I don't know where you put that yet. So
sure, we have.
Okay, thank you. Because again, I won't do a comment. The other question had to do with, did you guys also, when you were looking at this, have a spreadsheet for the non-bargaining, the Teamsters, the police and fire on equity, where they rate in the state of Indiana when you compare these job titles to those jobs?
Yes, it's a great point, because, again, we want to make sure that when we say it's important for us to be equitable in the state of Indiana, that we apply that widely. So one of the arguments that I think carries the most weight in this administration. As if there's any position where we're shown to be far out of keeping with other municipalities. We believe that the most recent negotiations have moved the city in the direction, in any case where we're behind, of being more in line with others, and will continue, and as you, I think, suggested earlier, a good role that the town manager might be able to play to help us get even more data to analyze in order to make sure that we're in line at every level of the city.
Right, because if you're going to do that for everybody here, you got to go across. So, thank you.
Councilman Curley. Councilmember Oliver Davis.
Thank you. I want to thank you, first of all, for looking at the cost of living adjustments, which I had asked this afternoon. Also, along those lines, when you consider comparing us to the city of Indianapolis and to the city of Fort Wayne is the whole county of Fort Wayne, and of course Indianapolis is just Big Indy. And so, have you given some thought to the fact that when you consider the population size of South Bend, we had roughly 107,000 births, and we only cover parts of St. Joe County, where all of Fort Wayne covers all of Allen County, and of course Indianapolis, with their Unigov set up there, is a different kind of organization. When we're looking at apples and apples, even though we're all a city government officials, it's a little bit interesting. There's not the exact fit, but I understand the purpose. What are your thoughts as you look at that? And I have a couple other follow-ups.
I think we're always challenged in trying to make a true apples-to-apples comparison. The point is well taken. Fort Wayne and Indianapolis are both larger cities, and in the case of Indianapolis, it's also governed in the same unit of government as the county itself. I think that's part of why we try to go for a middle-of-the-pack strategy. So instead of saying we should be just like Indianapolis or Fort Wayne, we're trying to make sure that since we're in the middle of this pack in terms of population size and responsibility, that we also be in the middle of this pack in terms of compensation.
Okay. Another issue that we have to look at in terms of with the waterworks. Now, we say that we have not been able to attract anybody. We currently have somebody who's in that acting role now, don't we? Not?
So yes, I mean, just to be clear, we continue to have an outstanding waterworks team that's making sure that we all get clean, safe drinking water. But they sure deserve some certainty on that leadership question.
And the only question I have, since you just shared that we have an outstanding team, without divulging any personnel issues and that kind of concept, I mean, if we already have an outstanding team and then the waterworks is already going well, and we already have somebody who's acting at the level that they're already doing, just a thought that comes in, why not reward good work with good work and good work with good pay, and whoever's local doing it, who's doing a good job. They may be from here, they may have worked their way up, and they may not necessarily come from some of the well-known places. But what is your thoughts of just adjusting their salary to give them something, but at the same time having this huge search when somebody's actually continually working on it and we're doing a good job? Why not take care of home?
I think any time that we have a vacancy or somebody in an acting role, it brings up the question of how long it's appropriate to keep that going.
Look, they're doing a good job.
Without anything bad happening. But at the same time, it's one thing to keep things right side up for some period of time, and another to do some of the work that goes beyond day-to-day production that's associated with leadership. Maybe Eric can share a little bit about how things are going in the waterworks department.
Sure. Your point is well taken. We've got an interim director there that quite honestly does not want to continue to be in that role, has served us very well, but has let go of his role as network engineer that we kept open in the meantime, and there's significant needs there that need to be addressed in terms of the overall operations of the waterworks facility that we need to make sure we continue to address so that we don't get behind. It's obviously a very important role, as the mayor pointed out. You've got 120,000 customers that you're responsible to provide clean, safe drinking water to, and that's 6.1 billion gallons a year, and not one of those gallons can have something wrong with it. So we feel it's very important to have a director that's got a safe drinking water background, that understands water treatment, and we'll make sure that we continue to provide safe drinking water to the residents. at the same time, being the interim director back into his role as network engineer, so he can start looking at the distribution system, making sure we've got adequate pressure, and meet the demands in the system.
Okay, since you're right there, my last question is there, Eric, he's right there, thank you for being there, and that is, could you, in a nutshell, define your need for having a deputy? And I know what you see that role, and I mean, in helping your role to get the well staffs or whatever. I mean, tell us about that, please.
For the deputy director position?
For your own department.
Yes. Well, we had discussed this before, and I think my view is very important to have a deputy director position because there are so many diverse work functions between taking care of the water, the wastewater, the sewers, the streets, the largest capital plan in the city's history, solid waste, central services with over 1,000 pieces of equipment. And the need is there for making sure that we continue to look at day-to-day operations, get employees engaged, and continue to find ways to perform better, provide a higher quality for our residents, but also find ways to do things more efficiently. And there's also a need to continue to do things like assess vulnerabilities in the system, more planning level, strategic stuff, looking for new customers, creating plans for growth, things like, on the water side, determining the least cost source of water, that the director will have some time to do, with the deputy taking things, looking at things like efficiencies in the system, like pump issues and how do you have more efficient pumps, how do you have more efficient operations, taking 10-hour shifts and making them 8 or 12 so that we can provide a leaner, meaner staffing to provide the same value. I can give lots of different examples, but the bottom line is I think there's a specific need to have somebody very focused on day-to-day operations and employee engagement and continuing to work on performance, employee performance, and also somebody in the CEO role that is looking at strategic vision and growth and long-term planning for the city.
How are those activities being done now?
We're doing the best we can with what we've got, and I'm here to tell you that I don't think we're doing an adequate job, and that you can only do what you can do, and you can get to what you can get to. And there are things that I would love to see done in the city that you just can't get to because there's not enough bandwidth.
Thank you, sir.
Councilman Varno?
Several times in the discussion, the mayor mentioned that at the behest to the council, we look at the salary and equity issues, and I just wanted to make clear that those discussions have been actually going on for, I think, probably for several years prior to that, because I think we identified what we considered for some equity. At the time, at least from my attention, and I speak only for myself, is that it was within the salary structure that existed. We weren't necessarily looking at other communities to see what they... So that's a step that's been taken, further, I think, beyond what our requests were. But for the sake of clarity, my understanding going forward, our request was equities within an existing salary structure, not a modified one.
Thank you. Councilmember Furley?
No questions.
Councilmember Shea? Councilmember Davis? In terms of the salary ordinance?
Okay. I expressed it earlier. I wish that, all of these things, changes should have been made for the last year before. Last year. When all the other increases were made. I go back to the letter that was written to me. I don't know who that person was. The level of morality with some of the employees of the city may be wavering at this point. And that has a lot to do with whether they're being valued as employees. We do understand that folks need, in order to get the recruitment that we're looking for, we need to increase the salaries. But when you increase them high like that, at one whop, it causes attention to other workers. Now, could we do that for every worker? No, there's no way possible could we do that. But in being responsible in the way we're doing it to make sure that we keep good worker morale, to continuously ask and increase salaries over and over again, and thinking that something is going to happen miraculously, I just think it's a bad way of governing. Will this be the last one? Or are we looking to increase any more salaries?
Well, every year there'll be a salary ordinance.
No, right, what I'm asking as far as percentages and things.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't stand here and guarantee to you that, for example, no salary will be raised more than 2% in the future in this administration. I do feel like this would get us a lot closer to where we need to be in terms of these positions. But we're probably going to find out there are other positions, especially if there are more junior positions in the city, where we see that kind of disparity. And if I were to find out that any position here would have to be raised by 80% to get to an equivalence of what they're paying in Fort Wayne, I'd be worried about that, and I'd be standing right here in front of you asking to fix that one too. So I guess the honest and simple answer to your question is no.
You know, I
can't remember which way you asked the question.
No, I'm following you. I got you. And so the other thing that I want to ask, you know, and this is time before I ask the question, I think that we need to reach our level and not Fort Wayne's or Indianapolis level. I think South Bend is unique in a lot of different ways. And so when we try to compete with other markets that potentially have a little bit more than we have, it makes us expend a lot of energy that may not necessarily be needed to expend. I think that, you know, we need to concentrate basically on what our level should be. Not what Fort Wayne's is, what Anderson, what our level is, and what do we have to offer to get the new talent in here. And what is it that we can offer? I asked you earlier about the EEOC report from last year, and I talked about that earlier about the percentages of women, men, minorities versus Caucasian, the percentages, who's working where, not necessarily asking you, you know, whose name needs to be in the spot, but in case of percentages and looking at fairness. How are we being fair and making sure that our city workforce is marrying what we see out here today? And so, in all fairness, when we were increasing these salaries, when we were doing all these things and attracting all these new talent to the city, are we doing it in a manner that appears to be fair to the population that is expecting us to do things in fairness? And where are the numbers? Because I asked for that earlier, but I haven't received it. And I'm going to stay on that point because I think that we need to change a lot of what we do and who we are employing based upon gender and also race.
So I know that when we had a committee meeting, when we were going over that, around 5 or 6, I made a commitment that we would get these OC numbers cut and out to you. I don't know if those have gone out yet. Those will be ready by Wednesday, okay. Because we do want to have a city workforce that better reflects the city that it serves. I would say, since I stood here about a year ago or more asking for some salaries to be adjusted, I'm pleased that we seem to be making progress. If you look at certainly the folks I brought in since we first came here for city salary increases, just at the more senior level in terms of direct reports, personnel in the mayor's office and department heads. If I'm doing the math right in my head, about 80% of those hires are women or minorities or both. But certainly acknowledge that we've got a lot more work to do as a city when it comes from the least senior to the most senior person here in making sure that we better reflect the community that we were brought in to serve.
So your new hires, you said, are like about 8%?
I believe department heads and mayor office personnel, I believe something like that. I'll make sure we can compute that and send that over.
Well, yeah, and also, and this is the other thing, since you raised that point, because I was just stuck on just the bar graph at this point, or the pie chart. If that's the case, then I would like to see at what level are these changes being made. Whether it's management or it's just, labor or at a department head level. Because I personally have not visualized or seen these new people looking different than what the workforce did prior to them coming in. I'm not here every day, I'm here a lot, and I have not seen that visually, so I would like to see that on numbers and on paper where this is happening at. Because again, the argument came earlier from the police department and the fire department, and they're working to establish some recruiting ways of recruiting. But the police department was like at 250 officers, and I have 250 or 240, I'm approximating numbers. You had probably 30 or less than 30 folks who are of minority, labeled a minority, and means women, the whole total 9. So how do we, new hires, I just want to see it. I really do. I need to see that because that was like almost like completely off the map in comparison to what the city makeup is.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Scott?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just all I want to say quickly is I've received way too many emails from Mayor Corvette at 2 a.m. in the morning, and I'm not exaggerating. So I understand what he's talking about bandwidth, 2 a.m., 1 a.m. So that assistant position I think is crucial for bandwidth, and we got to look at being competitive. And that's all I have to say. I reiterate what Dr. Hurlick said this afternoon.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we'll move to the public hearing portion. I'm going to ask our council attorney to share with the public how this portion of the council meeting will follow in regards to substitute bill 53-13.
Any member of the council would like to speak on this bill before the council, we ask that you give your name and address, and if you are speaking in favor, those individuals would come first. Immediately after that portion, anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the bill would then also be given a maximum of 5 minutes per individual. There would be a right of rebuttal immediately thereafter for the
Thank you so much. I'm going to ask First District Council Member Scott to monitor the time. Tim Scott.
5 minutes. I'll give a 1-minute exit warning.
At this time, we're at the public hearing portion. Is there anyone present wishing to speak in support of substitute bill 53-13? We do ask that you come to the podium at this time. Anyone present wishing to speak in support of the salary ordinance, which is substitute bill 53-13. We do ask that you state your name and your address for the record.
My name is Richard Nussbaum. I'm an attorney practicing here in South Bend. My offices are at 210 South Michigan in downtown South Bend. I've also been a 40-year resident of the city, living at 225 South Sunnyside down the street from Mallory. I'm here for 2 reasons. Number one, I want to express my own viewpoint, but I also want to read a letter that I've been asked to read from Andrew Berlin, who, as you know, is the new owner of the South Bend Soda-Hawks. I mentioned that I've been a long-time resident, a long-time practicing attorney in this town. I've been very fortunate because I've been able to serve in both the public and private sector. I served as city attorney for a period of 11 years. I want to make one comment with regard to that position. It's a very important position. It's something I was honored to serve as city attorney. And I will tell you right now, we have a young person, an African-American woman who I've been able to get to know a little bit, who's serving as our city attorney. And I can tell you that is a position at the highest level. And I think the city is very fortunate to have her in this position. I've also been able to interact with a number of people in the public and private sector who have great characteristics of leadership and have been very successful both in the private and public sector. And one category that is true across the board is that they've been able to assemble great teams. And I think that's the real purpose behind this request that the mayor is making, is so that he can assemble the best team he can for the citizens of the city of South Bend. So having said that, I'd like to read this letter from Mr. Berlin.
It's dated today, and it's to the esteemed members of the South Bend City Council. I am writing in support of the government's proposal to lift compensation for select city executives. I believe we need to increase rewards in order to recruit, motivate, and retain the caliber of talent necessary to deliver the level of service and services South Bend deserves. Over the last 26 years, I have led multiple businesses, and I am convinced that no organization can succeed without the right personnel. Indeed, businesses, organizations, and governments have great ideas every day, but it takes excellent people to turn these ideas into reality. There needs to be a reciprocal relationship between an employee and an employer. An employee must deliver many things: a strong work ethic, productivity, innovation, loyalty, and teamwork. In exchange, the employer, in this case the City of South Bend, must provide leadership, a chance to grow, and training along with competitive compensation. I have seen the data that shows that the salary levels for several South Bend executive positions are dramatically below relevant benchmarks. This gap means the reciprocal relationship is not in balance. As a result, my experience tells me we will be unable to return the right team or motivate that team for maximum productivity. In my businesses, people are the most important asset, and I have succeeded by investing in the best people. I hope the City Council sees the wisdom in also investing in the important people assets. Thank you, Andrew T. Berlin, Chairman and CEO of Berlin Packaging, Chairman and CEO of South Bend Silverhawks, and also the Commissioner on the Glencoe Public Safety Commission. And I'd ask to submit this, Robert, as part of the record.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council, for letting me speak up here. My name is Doug Anderson. I live in 7033 Stafford Place, South Bend, Indiana, District Number 1. I wanted to come up and give my support of the salary and compensation research that the City Administration is submitting. It's, as was previously mentioned, there was in the archives of South Bend Tribune, you can find a story late summer about Mr. Berlin and how he has built successful organizations. And it truly does start with valuing your people. And I do believe that this information is going to be very valuable in helping the City of South Bend retain and attract and motivate to be the next level city that needs to be. I know the Council is interested in a lot of data. It's very easy to ask for data and become wearied and disillusioned and lost in the data. But these are elected officials, and we have to take their recommendations on merit and move those forward. Again, investing in your people is very important. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in support of Substitute Bill 53-13, we do ask that you come to the podium at this time.
Thank you. My name is Rob Dukoff. I'm Dean of the Business School at IU South Bend. And the main point I'd like to make is not that we have an ideal system for compensation, but simply to illustrate how important we feel it is to pay competitive salaries. In the business school at IU South Bend, we hire specialized professors. Our salaries are publicly available, and candidates interviewing for jobs can easily compare. So our experience has shown us that if we don't pay reasonably competitive salaries, we simply can't hire well-qualified professors. So without this, we can't offer the high-quality programs that our students and our community expects us to offer. In the area I work, there's been a tremendous growth in demand for business higher education. There's been a shortage of professors, and the salaries have gone up as a result tremendously. So, for example, when we hire a new professor who may be in his or her late 20s, it's quite common for an individual like that we hire to be paid more than a professor that's been serving IU South Bend for 15 or 20 years. At a previous university I worked at, a very, very well-known professor used to joke, only half-jokingly, that he'd rather die than come back as a junior professor. Of course, nobody likes this, but we do it because it's necessary. We pay competitively in the short term to hire talented people, and we hope that in the longer term we're able to grow and improve our college, because if we do that, then the chances are greater than
and all of us benefit in the longer term. Of course, there's no guarantee that that occurs. So what we do is we use a small portion of the waste pool each year to redistribute based on equity, so that the high performers get additional adjustments that, while small on an individual year basis over time, do help address the inequities. I appreciate the opportunity to address the council. I think I forgot my address, 14281 Parker's Driving Range. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else coming before the council in support of this substitute bill? We ask that you come to the podium now. Anyone in support?
My name is Valerie Moore Krause, 4207 Norton Drive, South Bend. I lived there about 3.5 years. Prior to that, I was up in Harris Township for about 12 years. By profession, I am a compensation analyst and performance technologist and organization development specialist. I'm going to start with what my colleague from IUSB brought up. But one of the things in a university is that a university position is an independent market in itself. So say you were to go to court on that and you toss it out into the marketplace, it is based pretty much on that individual. The jobs we're talking about now, I do support paying more for certain jobs. But City Council, I've been following you guys for quite a while in terms of your pay structures, and you have a totally collapsed pay structure across the board, in addition to having a lag position in the marketplace.
Really?
Yes, and it's not as easy as the fix we're talking about right now. And you don't want to specifically look at individuals. And when you come to time in position, one of the things that is important is if your salary structure has not kept pace with the market, it's going to look like you're pegging it to John Smith, who has been in the market or that position for 20 years. And it's an equity issue with that individual. Really, it's your salary position. I believe, Mr. Schuyler, you had talked about not individuals, but plans. Usually what you need to do is you have to look at your whole salary structure. When I go online and I do some research, a lot of the municipalities have their whole salary structure from, Farmhood 1 all the way to the director of waterworks published, and you have a start rate, you have a midpoint, and you have a maximum. And the people who are at the maximum might have been there 20 years, and that might be a red line position, but every year you have a market adjustment. And if you're at least meeting your market, you're going to go up with whatever the market adjustment is for that position. And that's what has not been happening. And I know for a fact in some of your bargaining units that are not up right now, we have 20 veterans, Mr. Mayor, who are given $2,000 in supervisory positions of your person first walking in the door, and that is a huge equity problem. And as a taxpayer city council, I have advised other city councils in the past on other issues, that could cause you a legal issue at some point in the future when people catch on. Because it's not a matter of time for somebody who's been there 20 years is going to see somebody walking in the door with half their credentials getting paid the same in a regular size structure. And then you want to determine what your relevant market is. And a lot of these jobs, you're going national. Or even at least regional. So if you are in any of your positions advertising in a professional magazine, and it's national, what is your relevant market? So it really doesn't matter if it's Fort Wayne. You want to look at cities the same size, cities the same kind of dynamic as your city. And you want to decide how you're going to pay people within that organization. And there are ways to catch people up. When I was at Penn State, there was a time when they were cutting funding at the legislative level to the universities, and each department was having to do give backs. They actually, in one of the schools where they had dropped from being at the top of the pay scale, they were at the bottom in their national market. They were giving incremental increases to get people up to where they needed to be. So it's a long discussion. I'd be happy to meet with any one of you, but really, I do support what the mayor is trying to do. I really think you're making a lot of problems the way you're doing it. Because you need to say, what is your job evaluation system? For instance, we used to use, hey, I don't know what you're doing. I did a ton of evaluations where you transferred from one job evaluation system to another job evaluation system. What benchmarks are you using? Sorry.
1 minute.
Anyway, please, City Council, think about how you're doing what you're doing. I think it's a great idea because you've got a lot of people who you need to be bringing up to speed, and it is going to affect the performance and the future of the city. So, and thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
You have a card?
Is there any, excuse me?
Well, I don't, right now, we're going to go over the days.
Sorry, Chair.
Okay.
We'll bring it back to the chair. Thank you so much for your comment. Okay, no problem. Is there anyone else present wishing to speak in support? Seeing no one, is there anyone present wishing to speak in opposition? I do ask you come to the podium, state your name and address.
Reverend Greg Brown, 1238 Diamond. I don't agree with this, and to solidify at one time who was rated as being a dying city. Now we're bringing people in with less experience, and we want to give them a raise. This administration has not brought any new jobs. We're steadily taking out of the city. What are we bringing back to the city? You see a lot of things going on in the paper, around the paper, and this, but we want to pay people. We had a lady that I'm not going to call her name, worked on the job 12 years, is no longer on the job. But we'll take somebody with the less experience and put them on the job. We're getting rid of people that's been doing a good job, but they're not still on the job. But then we'll go out of our community, out of our region, and compare us to other cities. If we were that compared and doing so well, we wouldn't have been listed as a dying city. South Bend does have potential. You can compare us to Mishawaka. You don't hear that. You see the Evansville. You see where we're currently at. We've been there because we don't have a scale. We don't have a true scale. So we're asking you folks to do something quickly. We always want to do it fastly, but being fast and it's not about a black thing or a white thing, it's a right thing. Put the people in the right job at the right time for the right reason, then we can pay them equally. We can pay them what they deserve. But if we're going to take one department and merge it together to save money on one end, and then on the other end, we got these scales we want to go through the roof and we want to change the city immediately. That's not the way it's done. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else present wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing no one, the public hearing portion is now closed. Mayor Buttigieg, you have 5 minutes for rebuttal if you choose to do so.
I'll be brief. I just want to thank everybody who expressed interest and concern and want to emphasize my agreement also with the statement that our work is not done. There is certainly more work and research and analysis that must be done. That, as President Dieter pointed out, we're now better equipped to do because we have a talent manager in the HR department. We will continue to look not just at these positions, but at the overall salary structure for the city. And of course, it won't be possible to adjust any part of that without the partnership of the council.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to continue 5313 to 103013.
Second.
Substitute.
There's
Substitute.
Second.
It's been seconded. I do know that some council members had a comment. We do have a motion on the floor. I'm going to ask the council members if you would be willing to submit those in writing to all your council members as well as administration. I would like for you to do the same as we've requested for the previous bills, and that you get those to the council administration by noon tomorrow. So we do have a motion. It's been seconded, and at this time I will ask that all those in favor of the motion, and I hear you vote. Those opposed, the motion carries. And we want to say to council members, you still have opportunity to address all of your concerns and questions, but the goal on Wednesday is to take action on the bills that are before us. If you have some additional questions, comments that you believe that you would like to make sure are heard and part of the record, make sure that you CC those to John Vorty as well, so they're part of the record.
Well, sure, Chairman, Chairwoman. That's great, and I keep going back at this. Our heavy-handed approach in trying to be efficient and streamlined and really does a disservice to our dialogue when we're supposed to be debating issues on the floor. I know it can get late. I know it can be here till 2 o'clock sometimes or 1 or what have you. but the job that we were supposed to do was not supposed to be done through email, a conversation at the water fountain. It's supposed to be done out in public and open. And so the value of that gives other folks that may be here, even that we're sitting with, the opportunity to learn something different and to be able to debate these things in the best interest of the city. I'm not against, requiring folks to have a certain amount of time to talk or any of those things. But when we're in the interest of the city's business, we should be allowed to, and I can be allowed to, do what is necessary to make sure that I'm resolving myself so that I make the best possible goal for the folks who want me into office. We can't continue to restrict council conversation because somebody has to go to a part-time job or somebody has to work in the morning. It's just what it is. And I think that we work better when we have those conversations openly and honestly out in the open instead of sending all of these emails that get answered, they get answered, or just get filled in our inbox and then we forgot while we were even talking.
I believe this is the first time that I, as chair of the Committee of the Whole, has asked council members to submit any questions or concerns. We've had a number of budget meetings, and throughout the whole process, I would say that we started probably in August, and I'm going to ask our city clerk to identify the number of meetings that we've had. We know that we have to take action on the budget this coming Wednesday. Either we voted up or we voted down, but through no way that I, as chair of the Committee of the Whole, that I tried not to allow council members the opportunity for input and to have discussions. And again, as we try to move forward, that does not mean that on Wednesday that council members will still have the opportunity for input throughout the process. So again,
I'm not coming down on you. I'm not blaming you. I'm not saying that you are. I'm talking about the atmosphere and order and culture that has set the whole entire year. What it's the bidding time, and even you got 5 minutes, you got 1 minute. It's just really restrictive when you're trying to have a positive and progressive dialogue. It's very restrictive. And then you have people blowing on the other end of the table or, whatever. It's just, it creates an environment that is very contentious and does not allow for the democracy or the republic that we're in to be given its full value. It is a constant thing.
And again, your comments, your concerns are so noted. And again, as we move forward, my goal has always been to allow everyone opportunity to address, to ask questions, and to make sure that those questions are heard at the most appropriate time. But again, Wednesday is the timeline in which we will have a committee meeting at 6, if I'm not mistaken, and then we will actually meet as a full council at 7 p.m. That's my understanding.
6 committees.
Yes. Yes, that's correct.
A notice went out?
Yes. And now I'd like to entertain a motion regarding Bill 54-13.
I'd like to make a motion to continue 5413 to the special meeting on 10/30/13.
As requested by the petitioner.
Yes, ma'am.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the motion, I hear your vote. Those opposed, the motion carries. Now I'd like to entertain a motion to rise from the Committee of the Whole. Is there a second? Those in favor of the motion? Those opposed, motion carries.
Full council is now in session. Clerk Voight, let's go to third reading of 4413.
Third reading of the bill of the city of South Bend, levying taxes and fixing the legal administration for the purposes of raising revenue to meet the necessary expenses of the civil city of South Bend for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2014.
A motion to amend as it was in the Committee of the Whole.
Second. Motion is second. All in favor? Any against? Now motion for the amended version of 4413.
Move for the passage of substitute 4413.
Second.
Mr. Wardy.
Mr. Scott? Mr. Henry Davis? Mrs. Shea?
Aye.
Dr. Furley?
Aye.
Dr. Varner?
Aye.
Vice President Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Mr. Phillips? Aye. President Beasley?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Let's go to 5813.
Yeah. 5813.
That's right.
Third reading on the bill to vacate the following described properties. One, the first north-south alley, East of Street, west of Pleasant Street, running north, first east-west alley, south of Napoleon Street, for a distance of approximately 4.5 feet from this termination. Second alley, the first north-south alley, east of Pleasant Street, Dewey Avenue, running north from the first east-west alley, south of Napoleon Street, for a distance of approximately 56 feet to this termination point.
Move for the passage of Bill 5813.
Second.
Motion and a second. Mr. Vorty.
Mr. Henry Davis. Mrs. Shea.
Aye.
Dr. Furley.
Aye.
Dr. Barnes.
Aye.
Vice President Oliver Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Mr. Furley.
Aye.
Mr. Scott. Aye. President.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you. Proceed to resolution 1369.
A resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving and adopting the Near Northwest Neighborhood Quality of Life Plan.
Thank you. I think we had a committee meeting about 6 hours ago. Is that correct?
We did. The Community Investment Committee sends Bill 1369 forward with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Pam Meyer.
Members of the council, my name is Pam Meyer. I'm Director of Neighborhood Engagement for the Department of Community Investment with offices on the 14th floor of this building. On behalf of the department, in partnership with the Near Northwest Neighborhood, our department is pleased to recommend that you pass this resolution and commend the NNN for doing this quality of life planning process. We are pleased to be a participant in as much as we could be, and I am only one of a couple more presenters. I will turn this over to Karen Ainsley, who's the Executive Director of the Near Northwest, to share more details with you.
Okay. Any questions of Pam Meyer? All right. Thank you. Presenter, please.
Just like to make a disclaimer, I am connected to the Near Northwest Neighborhood Association. Karen Ainsley is my wife. There is no monetary value in this resolution, therefore by council I can vote on it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Karen Ainsley. I'm the Executive Director of the Near Northwest Neighborhood with offices at 1007 Portage Avenue. We are very excited to be before you tonight. This process that we went through was over a year's worth of work with neighborhood residents. You will hear a little bit more from Rose here with IACD as she kind of takes the lead and talks to you. We were very fortunate. The Indiana Association for Community and Economic Development is the one who actually gathered the information that we got from neighbors and put it into this beautiful plan that we have before you. We were really lucky to have neighbors go out and get trained and talk to over 130 different residents, go out, interview them, come up with concerns and things that were on their mind, and from that, we created a vision as well as we created some action planning strategies that Rose will talk to you more about. So we're just happy to be here to share this with you, to ask you for your approval and adoption of the plan. I'll turn things over to Rose.
Good evening. I'm Rose Scoble, the Director of Capacity Building for the Indiana Association for Community Economic Development. We have offices at 202 East Market Street in Indianapolis, 46204. Here today to talk about the exciting work that the Near Northwest Neighborhood has been engaged in over the past year. This work has been part of a larger body of work known as Comprehensive Community Development, in which informal leadership and formal leadership, the institutional, governmental, and private business stakeholders in the neighborhood come together to find an achievable vision together that they can share and move the neighborhood forward. In this work, the human and community development work, typical housing development, social services agencies, schools and parks and recreation, families, transportation, all of these things come together with the typical economic development framework of creating jobs and wealth in the community. Everything comes together around a shared community vision, and then organized, decide, act becomes the process that is used for developing a quality of life plan. This process has been done in roughly a dozen neighborhoods in Indianapolis. A neighborhood in Fort Wayne, one in Elkhart, and one in Evansville are currently engaged in the work, in addition to work being done nationally. The Near Northwest neighborhood started about a year ago with leader training, then engaged in those 130 one-on-one interviews, hour-long interviews where people asked people from the neighborhood, ask people from the neighborhood, what are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of the neighborhood, and recorded that. That compiled information was shared in a kickoff meeting, report back session, that then led to a visioning and ideation event where people were able to generate ideas around specific themes that came out of the interviews. Action planning teams were formed and spent the entire summer working to draft goals, action plans that became the quality of life plan. And at the beginning of this month, the Near Northwest neighborhood celebrated their rollout, which is the end of the beginning. Their work has only just begun, and so they begin implementation and evaluation of their plan on an ongoing basis. If you want to go to the next slide. As you can see, it has been a year. It was November 10th last year when we started the process with the interviewer training. Took a slight respite for the holidays and hit hard with the interviews early in the year. The report back was held in March, visioning in May. Changed the action team chairs in June about the SMART goal framework and the action planning framework that they would be using. It's been all summer working on it. We reviewed the draft plan in September, and as I mentioned, rolled it out in October. At each of these points, there was more and more engagement by people in the neighborhood participating in their planning process. A couple of pictures from the different events going on. Jim Shapiro from the Institute for Comprehensive Community Development was involved in the beginning to kind of structure how this work was going to be done, and then turned it over to resident work, and it was residents that did the remainder of the work throughout the process, all the way through rollout and voting to support their plan. The vision is kind of lengthy, but it can be summed up in the last sentence. Near Northwest is a neighborhood of choice that is seen as a highly desirable place to live, work, and play. There are 6 goal areas in the plan: connections and communications, quality housing, economic opportunity and redevelopment, safety, infrastructure and connectivity, and youth and families. This covers the holistic, comprehensive range of issues that need to be addressed in the neighborhood for the residents to believe that it is a neighborhood of choice. I'm not going to go through each of the goals that are in the plan. The action plans are very detailed as well. But in connections and communications, this idea of re-engaging block captains for positive interactions, establishing a landlord contact list, and improving the communication between the neighborhoods, the residents, and the landlords. Under quality housing, looking at comprehensive redevelopment initiative and improving 95 properties in Census Tract 6. Looking at the knowledge base of landlords and tenants, making sure that they understand their rights and responsibilities and can improve rental properties. And improving the appearance of 3 to 5 structurally sound properties each year. Economic opportunity redevelopment. Engaging in the city's initiative for Lincoln Way West, which is the southern border of the neighborhood. Adopting a Portage Corridor vision plan with a particular focus on Golden Avenue and Van Buren. Restoring the Ford distributing building to affordable rental housing and first floor commercial development, bringing that property back into active use. Creating a neighborhood safety campaign, porch lights, awareness, crime awareness training seminars for residents, infrastructure and connectivity, looking at walkability between the neighborhood, which is adjacent to South Bend's downtown and the downtown area itself, improving bike and pedestrian safety at key intersections. Also improving the character of the neighborhood, establishing a tree planting program, part of that character building sort of activity, and then sidewalk and curb hazard repair, which was something that was discussed earlier. Youth and families, engaging the youth in structured activities and promoting healthy lifestyles and facilitating connections among that diverse group of Near Northwest neighbors. Each of these goals has an action plan of what will be done to advance the goal, the timeline when it will be accomplished, who's primarily responsible for making sure that it will get done. Not who's necessarily doing the work, but who's making sure that that work gets done. And a performance measure so that everybody knows when they're done. And that work was done by the neighbors for themselves, for implementation by residents and stakeholders. We merely served as a facilitator and partner who has experience in this type of process in other places. The plan was developed by residents and stakeholders. The neighborhood sees the city as a partner for safety, code enforcement, housing, and infrastructure, which are existing relationships that the neighborhood has had with the city over the time. And formal adoption is a way that the city can support the work of the residents and stakeholders who engaged in this important planning process for themselves. If you have any questions, I and Karen are both happy to answer them.
Thank you. Any questions from the presenters? Councilman Davis.
Thank you. Last time we had a presentation like this, also thank you. We had a presentation like this from Howard Park Neighborhood Association, and they just wanted to make sure that I was consistent in some of the questions that were being asked when we were adopting the plan. Because I think all neighborhoods deserve a plan, should have a plan. Obviously, you need some measurements to see what you're doing, and hopefully you make them all. But in the efforts of getting the city to adopt a plan, usually that brings up the thought of tax dollars being spent more over there because of the plan, or the ability to gain more grants, or infrastructure improvements, or just more partnerships that will equal out to more dollars being spent in that area. And so, is this plan suggesting that the city do spend city dollars or tax dollars on these plans, or is just a way of saying this is what we're doing to trickle in and that's it? Is this associated with any type of or will be associated with any type of revenue from the city to support the plan?
There are no specific projects with specific city funds allocated that aren't already projects that are underway. But the plan does lay a framework for you to make strategic investments in the Near Northwest neighborhood, the same as you would in any other neighborhood. They're expressing what their priorities are and how you would make those plans. And in other cities that do have quality of life plans in neighborhoods, that is used as a criteria for making investment, and it's considered a positive in making that investment. But in terms of specific requests for funding at this time, there's nothing specific. This is supporting the overall work of the neighborhood and what they are trying to accomplish in partnership with the relationships you already have and the resources you've already committed to the neighborhood.
And I think the thing I would add there is right now, I think sometimes there's a little bit of a misperception that we've received some funding directly from the city. We do not receive any funding directly from the city in any way, shape, or form. Now, we do partner with a lot of agencies, so we do take full advantage of crime prevention, and we take full advantage of code enforcement and the services departments offer, but we don't anticipate any line item budget coming from this particular plan.
Well, that was just an effort of clarifying, because again, I think that there's an understanding that when you present a plan, that thereafter there will be requests for tip dollars or some sort of grant dollars or what have you to be spent in the area, because look, we have a plan and we should have priority to those dollars. And this is just me being here for the time I have been over several years, so just want to make sure that we are clear that this doesn't bind us to X amount of dollars for his area.
Does not bind you to anything.
I just wanted to clarify, that's it.
Along with that question, the different projects that you are looking at in terms of this plan, do you get any additional point values because of the fact that we have formally adopted it? I know there have been plans that neighbors have brought before us before, and because they brought a formal adoption and we have adopted that in their future proceedings, because they had a formal plan that was adopted by the city, their projects got rated higher and they got different bids. So again, will you get, if you're not getting any additional dollars, but would you get any additional point values? Because what is the, outside of the marketability of saying that the city is behind it, what else is there that entails when it comes to point values, other benefits that come from this vote? Because then what else will we be endorsing this for?
Right. The Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority, IHCDA, does have an allocation of tax credits that they use for funding a variety of projects around the state, and that is a competitive pool of resources. Their qualified allocation plan does lay out the point system for that, and having a project that is within an area that has a plan adopted for it does generate points under their scoring system. So yes, having an adopted plan is advantageous when pursuing state funding for tax credit projects and some other state pools of federal funds. Additionally, what we've seen in other communities is that when there's adoption of the plan or acceptance of the plan by the council, there's an understanding in the private and philanthropic community that this is a neighborhood where you should make investments that helps leverage investments from those communities that are non-governmental resources in ways that can be very small to unimaginably large.
So in a sense, two things that you like to clarify going on with what Councilman Davis has started in terms of, number one, that there is value from our vote that you may in particular projects receive point values, and then secondly, this is a tool to leverage out to get additional dollars or additional resources that could help in or any other projects within the neighborhood. So there is a value for that from the South Bend City Council.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And I think Oliver as well, a huge value to the neighborhood residents who spent countless hours putting this together, to see an endorsed vote from the city council saying that yes, we're supportive of this countless hours of work that we did to get to this point to have this plan.
Well, I agree with that. Sometimes when those plans have been presented to us before, it has been in the presentation clearly stated to us that because of our vote that we will receive point values and all of those kind of things, and so that was not necessarily clear.
That was not the impetus for this plan. It came out later as part of the planning process, and that's why we have not focused on that, even though it is a benefit of the plan being adopted.
I appreciate understanding that.
You have a question?
Yeah, congratulations. It goes to show you that the grant writers get the money. And will you do this for the other 5 districts?
The Northwest neighborhood raised their own funds to pay for the facilitation that we were able to provide and for all of the events that they had along the way. And if any other neighborhood can find the support to do a planning process, we would be happy to work with them along the way.
Okay, thank you. Anyone in the audience like to speak in favor of this? Anyone in favor of this? If you are in favor, please step up to the podium. You need your name and address for the record.
My name is Mary Turgey. I live at 1023 Portage Avenue. And I'm also a sister of the Holy Cross, which is one of the organizations that funded this planning process in our neighborhood. I'm going to be very brief because you've still got a lot on your agenda, and they've done a very good job presenting. I've been a resident of the neighborhood for about 19 years, and so I just want to affirm what Rose and Karen have said about the nature of this process. It really was highly participative and inclusive. So what you're seeing in our plan really does come from the residents themselves. The NNN staff themselves were not involved in the planning process at all, except to make some recommendations and provide information. So this is really coming from the people. The second thing I want to confirm is that this whole planning process is really grounded in partnership. That's the whole point. That we don't try to do everything ourselves, and we don't come to you and say, okay, we've got a plan now, do it for us, city. That's not the spirit in which this was done, and that's not what we intend at all. We come asking you not to do something for us, but to do something with us, to make the neighborhood as strong as it can be. So thank you very much, and we're very proud and excited about this plan, and we hope that all of you are too, because it's a credit to South Bend as a whole.
All right, thank you. Anyone else in favor?
Good evening. My name is Mike Hedler. I live on 729 Cottage Grove in the Inman. Been a resident for 5 years. And for some time, biking home, just seeing children idle and other challenges in our neighborhood, thinking more and more about how can I get involved, how can I be active, and want to applaud really all the Inman, those involved. I took part in interviewing a dozen folks, residents, stakeholders, and chaired the gold group on youth and families. And just through these discussions and through great collaboration, working to really empower each other to, in this particular case, create new initiatives for youth, create initiatives to get residents who don't often talk to each other, talking to each other. We've already got a hip-hop Zumba class worked out for Monday nights. You're all welcome to attend. But really grassroots empowerment for residents to strengthen the neighborhood overall, and just wanted to say thank you for listening to us, and thanks for the support.
All right, thank you. Anyone else in favor? Any opposition? Council.
First, the adoption. Comment, quick, before we go into that, just a quick comment.
Quick comment, go ahead.
What I'm getting at, I'm not saying I'm against it. What I am saying is that there is a healthy dialogue that really needs to happen when we're talking about adoption plans. My time spent on council, I got opportunity to travel for understanding and education. When you're adopting plans, we are suggesting an end result for a particular area. Under that detail and that surface, there are a lot of zoning issues, redistricting issues, census tract issues, job programming, and job training issues. When you're going out to say that this plan will be one when you go to the grant and funding for that particular area. So as we want to make it seem like it's somewhat nitpicking, not nitpicking. This goes into the details of what our job is and how jobs are funneled into the community or not. And so we have to make sure that what we're doing is responsive and responsible also to the city budget, but also to other areas within the community. I'm not against the project. I think that there's a healthy conversation, education needs to take place, because what we're doing is we're saying yes to all these things, but not understanding the details that are within the details that we do on a regular basis and not putting them together. That's it. And I want to say adopt by motion to adopt by acclamation.
Good by acclamation. Motion in a second. Go ahead.
Okay,
Can't even second.
Resolution 1369.
Yep.
Mrs. Shea.
Yes.
Aye.
Dr. Pearl.
Aye.
Dr. Barton.
Aye.
Vice President Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Mr. Furley.
Aye.
Mr. Scott. Aye. Mr. Henry Davis.
Aye. 1370. Can we hear both of these together?
Yes, a motion.
So moved.
Second.
1371.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second by Karen L. White. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Any opposition to that? Thank you. Mr. Gordy, let's go with 1370, please.
1370, a resolution of the common council of the city of South Bend, Indiana, designating certain areas within the city of South Bend, Indiana, commonly known as 4528, 4536, 4546, 4606, 4612 Lake Blackthorn Drive, 6568 Dockside Drive, 4636, 4644, 4710, 4720, 4728, 4814, 4822 Starwood Drive, 6510, 6507, Stillwater's Court, 4938, 4954, 5011, 4935, 4915, Stern Line Court, 6535, 6530, 6634, Lee Whitty Drive, 5016, 4917, Master Court, 5002, 5010, 5013, 5003, 4925, Bow Line Court, 47, or Bow Line Court, 4738, 4712, Portside Drive, 4627, 4611, 4604, 4614, 4624, Pier Court, 6613, Dockside Drive, 4711, 4719, 4821, 4829, Starboard Drive, 6530, Lake West Circle, 6735, 6747, 4736, 4739, Blackthorn Harbor Drive, an economic revitalization area for purposes of a 5-year residential property tax abatement for Foreman Real Estate Group, Inc.
And we have a committee report on this.
We did. The Community Investment Committee sends Bill 1370 forward with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. At this point, we can probably read 1371 also. Thank you, Mr. Gordy.
71, resolution from the adoption of a declaratory resolution designating certain areas within the city of South Bend, Indiana, commonly known as Lake Blackthorn, located on approximately 56 acres west of Brick Road and west of and adjacent to the US 31 bypass, having the addresses of 5005 Master Court, 4704 Portside Drive, 4603 Pier Court, and 4643 Starboard Drive, residential and distressed areas for purposes of a 5-year residential real property tax abatement for Foreman Real Estate Group, Inc.
We also have a committee report.
We do. The Community Investment Committee sends Bill 1371 forward with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Presenter with the synopsis of your project, please. Either one, it's the flat one that lays on the table.
Can you hear me okay? Mr. Bourget, I didn't get that. Could you repeat all that, please?
Mr. Corman.
My name is Steve Corman with the Corman Real Estate Group, with offices at 4404 Technology Drive, South Bend, Indiana. In the interest of being brief and letting you get home to spend some time with your family up this evening, I'm going to cut right to the chase. We, in the conference meeting this afternoon, we discussed some of the reasons why the tax abatement made sense for the villas of Lake Blackthorn. So I ask for your favorable support, and I'm here this evening to address any questions that any of you may have or respond to any remonstrance as well.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, Mr. Corman?
Sure. Bill the Blackthorn, sir. Blackthorn. Mr. Corman? Hey, how are you? Okay. The Bill the Blackthorn, how long have you been there?
How long has it been there? This will be 10 years.
10 years. What's your occupancy rate, or what? How many homes have you sold?
We, of the 113, 114 lots, Mr. Davis, we've sold about 77.
Okay. Are you seeing any returning interest or new growth in that area?
We are. We absolutely are. We're getting a lot of, our primary demographic is empty nesters because they like the ability to fly out of Southland Airport to visit grandchildren, or they like being close to Notre Dame, or they like being able to jump on the 80-90 East West Toll Road and go to Chicago, or they like, and we have a number of people that work at Whirlpool up in St. Joe, Michigan. They like the ability that they can be in St. Joe in 30 minutes by jumping on the bypass, but yet they like the quality of life of living in South Bend better, so they live down here but work up in Michigan. Is that the kind of thing you're asking?
Well, yeah, because, again, I've been focusing on this here more often than before.
when we are beginning to provide subsidies or ability to partner with the city or tax dollars or what have you, I always like to know what is the return or the benefit of return on investment by the city for allowing these things to happen. I'm not against what you're doing, sir, believe me. But in case of understanding what's going on and what the return is, just saying yes to it and moving on and thinking that it's all, is not really, I think that it deserves more conversation. So that's why I was asking the question. So I'm not really apologizing for asking questions, saying that I think there needs to be more of a dialogue about the return of investment that happens, and we give grant taxpayers, and when we give government subsidies to individuals, private developers, whomever.
I can answer that in about 1 minute. When we purchased the land, there was approximately 58 acres. The total amount of tax dollars being collected by the city were under $1,000. When we're built out, it will be over $400,000. As a developer, we pay for the infrastructure, the roads, the water, the sewer, all that. Obviously, the city incurs a lot of costs by providing fire and police protection and stuff. But I think it's been a great investment for the city, and every single buyer we have keys in on that tax abatement. It helps us compete with the Penn school system. This helps us compete in a lot of ways with all the bank foreclosures that are still on the market. And a lot of my competitors that own neighborhoods or subdivisions are banks out in that area, and they are liquidating those at a lot less than what we're selling for. So the tax abatement, I believe, is the city gets a really good return on their dollar, a real good bang for their buck, and I think it makes a lot of sense. The bottom line is we will be able to bring a lot of new residents into the city of South Bend.
Maybe not. I just think. Thank you for your investment, and also thank you for your investment.
All right, thank you. Anyone would like to speak in favor of this? Opposition? Council, let's go with 1370 first.
Move for the adoption of 1370.
Second.
Mr. Wardy?
Dr. Furley.
Aye.
Dr. Byrne.
Aye.
Vice President Oliver.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Mr. Furley.
Aye.
Mr. Scott. Aye. Mr. Henry. Mrs. Shea.
Aye.
And President Peters.
Aye. Thank you. 1371, please.
Dr. Byrne.
No, we have to have a motion first. I appreciate that, but...
Motion for the adoption of 1370.
Second.
Now, Mr. Woody.
Let's start with Dr. Byrne.
Aye.
Vice President Peters.
Aye.
Dr. Linda White.
Aye.
Mr. Furley.
Aye.
Mr. Scott. Aye. Mr. Henry Reagan. Mrs. Shea.
Aye.
Dr. Furley.
Aye.
And President Peters.
Thank you. Aye. We have no first readings. May I have a motion under unfinished business to send bills 4813 and 5913 to Z&A for 111113?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you. We have a motion to set 1372 community investment for 111113. Second. We have a motion and a second on that. All in favor? Any opposition? Thank you. Any other unfinished business before the council?
Sure, President Leader, I wanted to acknowledge the fact that I have gone on a couple of trips this past year in different locations. So, one of the actions for the privilege of having a presentation to the council on the last meeting of this year to talk about things that I've been doing and have been a part of, given the fact that the city has paid for some of the travel and the hotel arrangements. So that can be scheduled so I can deliver not a conversation, but a presentation over what has taken place and some of the things that have going on with me in my education, but also what I'm bringing back to the council as well.
Would you like to do that under the report of city officers?
That'd be great.
Okay, thank you. Under new business, we'd like to announce that we have a special council meeting on 10/30/13 at 7 p.m. Thank you. Now, privilege of the floor. Privilege of the floor is a time where you can step up to the podium. We need your name and address. For the record, if you have something specifically you'd like the council to look into, there's a form there. You need to fill out if there's something else that you just want to vent, you can do that. But if you want us to follow up, let us know, and we'll point it to the appropriate committee. Councilmember Scott will be the person who keeps the time.
You'll have 3 minutes, and I'll give you a 1-minute exit warning.
Members of the council, my name is Pat Pill. What I have to say will take about 6.5 minutes.
Motion to increase the time to 6 minutes. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition?
Okay. Thank you. I live in the city at 1838 Stonehenge Lane.
Can you turn that mic? I don't think. Can you get to that mic? You got something on it or something? We can't hear.
Okay. Can you hear me now? I mean, that's talk louder. Okay. I live in the city at 1838 Stonehenge Lane. I've lived in the city my entire life, with the exception of the time I served on active duty with the military during the Vietnam War. I grew up on the west side at 449 South Albert Street, graduated in 1965 from Washington High School. I'm a retired South End policeman who served 21 years on the South End Police Department. I'm also the former president of the Board of Public Safety. I served on the board from December of 2005 to September of 2013. And I do want to thank the mayor for his form letter thanking me for my years of service. Part of the duty as a member of the Board of Public Safety was a sitting judgment on police and fire department disciplines. Many times throughout the 8 years I served on the Board of Safety, we had hearings to determine the guilt or innocence of those men and women who serve on the departments who were charged with violations of the department rules of conduct. There were 2 very recent cases of police officers charged with misconduct where hearings were held and those officers were determined to be violated the rules of conduct and were disciplined severely. One officer was fired, and the other officer, after a 4-day hearing, was suspended for 120 days without pay and will be demoted upon his return to duty. I'm telling you this because what the Board of Safety members do is very serious business with decisions made impacting the lives of public safety employees severely in many cases. Council members might remember a few years ago several cases being brought by the chiefs of both the police and fire departments of employees' misconduct with driving under the influence. The Board of Safety taking a very firm stand on the punishment of those cases being more severe than it had been before, with suspensions, time off, without pay, and demotions for a 6-month period of time before returning to duty. During that time, the South End Police Department had a division chief charged with DUI. Mayor Licke had the responsibility of determining the South End Police Department punishment of the officer by state law and not the Board of Safety. The mayor came to the Board of Safety before talking with the chief and told us he understood the message that we were sending to the public safety employees and agreed with us. He was therefore giving the chief the same punishment we had given the rank and file employees. It was a substantial suspension without pay, demotion in rank for 6 months, but while still being required to perform the same duties at the lower rank and pay. Now we come to the current matter of Chief Teachman, which the mayor describes as a politically motivated complaint, which is a molehill being made out to be a mountain. I find it hard to believe a man elected to be mayor of our city would characterize what our brave men and women do as molehills. I also find it hard to believe the mayor would make his decision on what Chief Teachman didn't do and what Chief Teachman did do based on politics. Yes, I said the mayor based his decision on politics. You see, to do what 2 Board of Safety members recommended, to ask for Chief Teachman's resignation, would be to admit he, our mayor, had made a mistake in hiring this man, who is unfit, in my opinion, to serve as chief. So yes, the mayor's decision with regards to Chief Teachman was definitely based on politics. I suspect that every member of our council would expect the chief of the South End Police Department to lead the department by example, and then expect the men and women who serve the department to follow, right? Well, believe me, you need to investigate not only what happened the night in April at the King Center, but also Chief Teachman's answers to questions about what happened that night. When you do, then you will agree with the two Board of Safety members who asked for his resignation. There was also a third Board of Safety member who pointed out those things Chief Teachman did wrong, but didn't recommend any punishment to the mayor. He did say the chief should address the members of the South Bend Police Department with regards to his actions in the King Center incident, though. So yes, there were 3 Board of Safety members who pointed out things the chief did wrong with regards to the King Center incident and the subsequent ISP investigation, and not what the mayor said was a majority backing his position the chief did nothing wrong. 1 minute, sir. Council members, you should have also asked the mayor what witnesses told him the chief was in the restroom when Lieutenant Newton was told about the fight outside the King Center. Ask him for the names of those witnesses who told him that, because he was quoted saying that in the newspaper on September 26th. Did the mayor talk with witnesses personally, or did he give the public information through the newspaper from the ISP report? Please ask the mayor for the names of those witnesses he talked with about the matter who told him Chief Teachman was in the restroom when Lieutenant Newton responded to the fight. Mayor, you can't have it both ways. You can't refuse to give the public answers to all the questions and facts of what happened that night and the subsequent ISP investigation, but then tell the public part of the information to justify your bad decision. If you are going to release part of the facts, then release all the facts, because the public needs to know what kind of mayor we have and chief he appointed. Council members, please conduct an investigatory hearing to learn the facts of what happened.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you. You want to get back to your testimony?
Reverend Greg Brown, 1238 Adams. I'm the gentleman that made the complaint against the chief teacher. Before it got to the city council board, I went to Mayor's Night Out to talk to the mayor about the situation. The mayor had no answers and didn't want to hear what I had to ask him to say. That's why I got to the city council board, because he spoke about transparency, talked about someone to bring an investigation on his administration, wouldn't be a leader in his under his administration. So my thing is this here: we got transparency. Everybody makes mistakes, but when I went to the mayor on 2 different nights out with Jesse and Sammy Brown, we couldn't get no answers. Still today, we don't have any answers. Thank you.
Just another clarification. We're back to 3 minutes. I'll give you a 30-second.
Jesse Davis, P.O. Box 10-205, South Bend, Indiana. I had a few things that are either redundant from past meetings and past privileges of the floor, such as the rental building. I talked to the chief about that. He basically told me that the city could handle that as a civil matter instead of a criminal matter, that this contractor was outbilling the homeowner and billing the city for the same work. He told me the reason why was basically that the city ordinance for the sewer insurance program stated that homeowners were obligated to pay for second opinion drain cleaning. The city should not be paying for that. This is what the chief gave me as an excuse. So I have a question I'd really like the council to look into. If that's the case, I read the ordinance, and it does state the homeowners are obligated to pay. But this contractor also billed the city and got paid. Someone within the city set up a specific fund that is put there to pay for second opinion drain cleaning. So if your ordinance says we don't pay for that, who within the city set up a fund specifically and allowed this contractor to milk the city out of thousands of dollars? I also would like to know if there's been any forward movement from the council in getting access to or getting any questions answered about the
ski report that Mr. Petrello talked about.
I'm sorry, real quick, I'm sorry. A point of clarity, when we change the rules, it's for everyone, it's not just for one individual. When you set the rules at the beginning of the message, that's what it stays at. It doesn't revert back to what we normally do. So the point is, when you make a motion, make a vote, it stays at that level until that portion is over with. So everyone's still on 6 minutes.
No, I think the council rules say 3 minutes, and there's special exceptions made in the case of Mr.
I made a vote motion, you guys said, Howard said second, and we said all said aye. Is that 6 minutes? We just can't arbitrarily change the rules in the middle of the game.
The request was for that one individual, because the council rules provide per city committee 3 minutes.
So we can just increase time.
Takes the majority of the council to...
Per person? Or for the whole entire time?
Takes the majority of the council to amend your rules. For instance, earlier in the meeting, we had a motion to change the order in which there would be a public hearing.
I'm aware of that, but we're part, well, you're right. So that we're in a hearing portion right now, folks coming in to do privilege of the floor. We can't just revert back because one person wants more, one less. It's the same for everyone.
The council was given notice by the person speaking that his statement would take approximately 6 minutes. That was the purpose of extending the time.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
I didn't lose any time, did I?
No, that's good.
Go ahead. My name is Jerome Jones. I live at 2413 Kingwood. I'm a lifetime resident, graduated from Central High School in 1954. I'm here tonight concerning that crowd of Kingwood and Bertrand. I think everyone is aware of that shooting a couple of nights ago. And I hear that they are going to do something about it. I've heard that so many times. Nothing has ever been done about it. The other thing I want to talk about, mention, is the mayor keeps talking about downtown. I think the neighborhoods really are the backbone of this city. I've been coming down to these city council meetings off and on for 25, 30 years. And when I come, I always mention the sidewalks and curbs in our neighborhood. We don't have the sidewalks and curbs that we should have. My wife and I own 3 properties, so we do pay property tax. Another point I have is a substation that's been talked about downtown. I think there's so many abandoned homes in certain neighborhoods. Why aren't some of these abandoned homes used for substations? It's a temporary thing. Doesn't cost the city anything. They own the properties, I assume. So I think that would be a good thing to do. Use it for a substation for the police. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Art Disher Hogan. I stay at 1130 South Front, South Bend, Indiana. I want to speak with the council about an issue resulting from July 31st, 2013. I was a former employee of General Sheet Metal Works, South Bend. Upon me arriving to my employer on August the 1st, I was attacked at my job. I have a CD here with the threat that the gentleman made to me, and I also have protective orders that I tried to put in place prior to the situation occurring. It resulted in me catching a felony case due to the matter that happened. I'm just looking to get some assistance with resolving the matter without having to go through the full extent of the court system. The council could address that.
Great, thank you. Did you fill out a form?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Theodore Robert, 2617 Ferguson Street. I want to bring to the attention of the City Council. Last week, I filed a formal complaint with the Mayor's office against Chief Teachman. The reason why I filed that formal complaint was because of what occurred at King Center. I'm sorry, after King Center. And also involves Lieutenant Lee Ross. I had one or two things happen after that. Either Lieutenant Ross, when he initiated his investigation into Teachman, he either acted alone or Teachman instructed him to go down there to investigate. So I went and filed a complaint with the mayor's office seeking an investigation into determining if Chief Teachman instructed Lieutenant Ross to go down there to investigate this complaint. The mayor then decided that my complaint was not valid, so he then forwarded my complaint to the Corporations Council. I don't know how a complaint is now a legal matter for the city. That's what I want the council to investigate, if the mayor acted unethically by sending a complaint to the law department. I also filed a complaint with the Board of Public Safety asking them to investigate Lee Ross, considering that he's not the appointed official. They then forwarded my complaint for an investigation of Lee Ross to the law department, who then forwarded to Chief Teachman. How is it that Chief Teachman can investigate the same guy who illegally started an investigation against him? Again, Board of Public Safety forwarded my complaint to the law department, who then forwarded to Teachman. It's all here. I have documentation of what's going on. The mayor says your complaint is not valid. Corporation Council take over it. The Board of Public Safety said, we're going to wash our hands with this. Law department, you take care of it. The law department says, we're not going to deal with it. Teachman. Ladies and gentlemen, 30 seconds, sir. In my community, people tell me about there has to be cover-ups going on in the police department. I hear that all the time. Here, I have documentation that some of their concerns are valid. Something is wrong here. What does Lee Ross have on the city that no one wants to investigate him? What does he do, and what is he holding above the city's head that says, we're not going to punish him for violating the police duty manual?
Time is up, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to stop the council this time? Seeing none, we'll adjourn.
Yeah, but I'll take a